Hey everyone, Chris Sawyer here. The Varietal Show is back. I am here with my good friend Tony Moll, and you guys might not know Tony's name just right off the top of your head, but Tony you've seen before if you like NFL football, because Tony you can see by size, I'm a little small next to him. This is a guard, and we call it a football guard, who became an NFL player in 2006. You were 5th round in the draft. Packers, yeah, Packers.
Go Pack Joe.
I think everyone out there that knows Packers knows who Tony Moll is. But I know him because he's a good friend of mine, and he grew up here right in Sonoma, where we're at right now. We are at his tasting room right here. Tony, thanks for having me and having our great guests.
Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, no problem. You and I have been friends for a while, and I mean, you were a Dragon, and I was a Petaluma Trojan, and there's that conflict. We like each other a lot now, and having Tony come back to our area, you were playing with you got drafted by the Green Bay Packers. You ended up playing with the Ravens and really with the Chargers. I mean, 3 great teams. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about football. Don't worry, you guys. We can't not talk about football when we get into this. But you really made a decision to get into the wine industry when you finished. And tell us a little bit about that.
Totally, yeah. I mean, so me growing up here, my family's been here now for 5 generations throughout Sonoma County. Came over from Italy on my mom's side to grow grapes. On my dad's side, they came over from Norway and became home builders throughout the North Bay. But ultimately for me, growing up here in Sonoma, being surrounded by grapes, the smell of wine during the fall, it's intriguing for everybody. Yeah. And, a couple of my good childhood friends, their families owned wineries, and you get summer jobs there, and being surrounded by it, it makes it fun. And slowly but surely, as I matured into my 20s, you want to drink wine when you come home. And, for me, I was lucky enough that 2 other guys that I was drafted with, Daryn and Jason, the other fat guys, enjoyed wine too. And so we put together the brand actually almost immediately in our career. And so while we were playing football, we created 3 fat guys. And it was a very small, just fun.
And why did you call it 3 Fat Guys? This is a good question here. You guys might win a lot of money in trivia sometime.
There you go, right? Yeah, so all the offensive linemen, the nickname in the locker room is the Fat Guys. And so it's not about our names. It's not a celebrity brand. We wanted it to be a lot of fun and to make good wine. And so we just decided let's call it 3 Fat Guys and let it just be about having fun.
I mean, isn't that cool? You play football, but then you start a business with 2 of your football mates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. And you guys were drafted in the same year. You were all on the same team of the Packers. That's when Favre was still playing.
Right. So we ended up starting together as rookies too, which was kind of fun. I mean, we set weird rookie records, and when we were playing together. Yeah. It's a fun story in football alone. Now you tie in this really cool wine concept that we're doing. And it allows it just a place to just seem casual and an approach where a lot of places try to be over the top within the industry. And so we get this great niche of people that want to come in and just enjoy themselves without it having to deal with all the nonsense and just drink damn good wine.
Exactly. So we're tasting this amazing reserve Sauvignon Blanc from Sonoma Valley right here. Him and I both have an amazing story about this vineyard. It's a great man named George McLeod planted this vineyard. He learned from Mike Lee, who's like the legendary person. Him and his brother started Kenwood Winery. But he totally was a Stanford grad, great businessman, and he really followed Mike Lee's, what he'd like him to do to grow great grapes there. And he really did. And when George kind of retired, he actually started making his own wine from that. He passed away a few years ago, and we want to lift a glass to George McLeod because he was a legend in our minds. And really someone, but you got the fruit from here. I mean, this is so good,
Yeah, I was actually introduced to the vineyard a handful of years ago when friends of mine that had a small little brand here in town started getting fruit from there. But for our story, our winemaker Jim McMahon, who not the Bears quarterback, but the legendary winemaker here in Sonoma, Napa. Yeah. He started working there straight out of college at Kenwood. Yeah. And one of the first vineyards he worked in was Indian Springs, now McLeod Ranch.
Yeah.
And so us to be able to go back there, it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
And you know, and Jim, we went up there not too long ago before we picked grapes this year up there, and you could see a little smile on his face. It's one of those really cool spots. You're above the fog line, so when you're walking through it and you overlook into the valley and it's just filled with that tule fog, it's just it's so gorgeous up there.
Yeah.
And the wine that can come from those grapes is pretty incredible.
It is.
We put a lot of heart and soul into our Sauvignon Blanc program. It's a newer program for us. But it's, you know, to me, our desire with our fun brand is to make a style of wine that everybody can enjoy. Yeah. And the people that are looking for high-end wines can still fall in love with it. And I think we're doing that. I think this is becoming a really good program.
This is really opening up too. We opened it a little while ago just to taste it together before we came on, and man, it's even gotten like this. I mean, I give a little credit to, I want to say one thing for another person from Kenwood, Pat Henderson, who Jim was probably working with, the other winemaker there, who's a legend as well. So, I mean, this vineyard was a very special vineyard. It got touched by a lot of people, got a lot of fruit from that vineyard that were very cool. I mean, it's not a big vineyard, but it's just the people that used it tried to treat it with the most respect, and I think this is just showing it right now.
Thank you very much.
Unbelievable. It's just delicious. You know, here we are where we're located right now, but the great thing is this winery is kind of like the gateway to downtown Sonoma, which is, I'm not kidding. You get on this road here, which is Broadway, and it goes straight at the square. It goes straight into it, and we're right here on the very south end of Sonoma. We're about maybe a mile and a half, maybe 2.
Exactly 2 miles from the plaza.
2 miles, exactly 2 miles, and that's due south. So when you drive in from San Francisco, you just come right here, obviously.
You'll see our big giant billboard out front, says 3 Fat Guys. You just pull in, come have a glass.
Pretty much. And so, you know, what I'm getting to here is this next wine that we're going to taste is a Chardonnay. Chardonnay and southern Sonoma County are huge together, and one of the reasons for that is our great friends, the San Giacomos. Great family, we know them, we love them, they're our dear friends. We could almost cry right now because we love them so much. And that they're great farmers, and they really brought over that Italian tradition like your family did. You're like your mom's side of the family really brought that over here, this love and usefulness of wine and why it's part of their lives. And the San Giacomos have allowed 85 plus wineries each year to source fruit from them, and you're one of them. And here we are tasting this next wine, which is going to be the Chardonnay. And this is a great one. So this is the San Giacomo Vineyard Designate. The San Giacomos, I did a great show with Steve San Giacomo. You guys can go back and find that one. It was probably, it was last year at some point. Oh boy, I've got over 100 episodes of this, so it's probably maybe in the 80s, maybe somewhere. But you can find it. Steve and his family, and his brother and sister, and just their whole family. I mean, they're the real deal. They're the real farmers of Sonoma County, just like the Duttons are in a little bit northern part here. We appreciate them so much, and this is an opportunity for you to get your hands on. I mean, he does have a little inn. They went to high school together, and they are good buddies. And believe me, we have had fine drinks together, all 3 of us, and the whole family, and you and I. But it's just a special thing for you, isn't it? You have to pay respect to this family.
Totally.
And you can't screw this one up.
Well, and for us, our Chardonnay is just a beautiful wine, and we just bottled this, our 2021 Sonoma Coast jar. We call it Sonoma Coast because it has that wonderful coastal influence here on the southern side of Sonoma Valley, coming through the Petaluma Gap. I also think Sonoma Coast sounds sexier than just Sonoma.
Yeah, it does.
or Carneros in a way for Chardonnay.
Carneros is about the lambs anyways. We can eat that stuff, but
So we call it Sonoma Coast.
Yeah.
It's 100% French oak barrel, which I think really helps it shine and show. I think Jimmy does a phenomenal job
Yeah, I
creating
think
this
that
wine.
Jimmy's a very talented winemaker. I've known him for years, and to have you guys work together, that really makes me happy. You know, he's just such a good guy, and,
Totally.
and he really tastes the true flavors of these wines.
Yeah.
It's not like a bunch of winemaker. Oh, I bought a bunch of cool barrels.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? I want to taste the fruit from the vineyard that's special, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Jimmy does a good job on that.
One of my
really good job.
One of my favorite experiences with Jim is when we go through and we taste the wines in barrel, and it's more we're looking for the characteristics from each different type of barrel, each different toast of each type of barrel, and it's such a cool way to see him do what he does best in his element, and it's one of those cool moments. You're like, I'm so proud of my buddy, my friend, and what he does, because he's so good at it.
He's a good man, for sure. This is great. I love the texture of it. I love the fruit in here. There's a great melon kind of note to it too in the front. It's got a little bit of exoticness to it. It's a little, it's great, because if we were to go Carneros, if you were to put this in front of me blind, and what would be the first thing I'd probably be looking for in Carneros? Apple, pear, and lemon. Those are like three things you're going to find in almost every single, especially the lemon. This is a little bit different area, so we're really getting a little bit more of this coastal influence over here from the Petaluma Gap, and we're really tasting, wow, it's got some really interesting, almost more exotic kind of notes to it. So that's what I love about it. I mean, these vines have to weather the storm, as we would call it, and it's pretty much every day. Which is crazy, and it's windy out there today. That's why we're not outside, because he's got a great backyard too here, but we just can't be out there because it'd be that's all you hear from us. But this is just a beautiful example of it. We're getting into holidays right now, and I could think of about 50 things I could pair this with. But one thing right now that I would love to do this with is scallops. Just like a really pan-seared scallop with a little bit of lemon zest on it, and just a kind of just pretty minimal integration there, because it's just, you really want to taste this wine, but you want it to complement that amazing, sea scallops, like big fatties like that, and it's just like yum yum.
Yeah.
I think this would be a superstar pairing right there.
Yeah, and it's obviously, at this point, believe it or not, you're one of the first people to actually taste this wine, since it's recently.
And you're here with me.
Yes. But I think as it continues to age, and the characteristics become a little more broad, you get that beautiful, like almost like a popcorn type of characteristic within our Chardonnay, that I can just see where that's going to go in the future as
it's like truffle
ages.
popcorn, or something that you want.
I'll take that.
Yeah, truffle popcorn would be good.
Yeah.
Especially if it's real truffle.
Exactly.
So
Truffle shaped popcorn.
I love it. That's fantastic. So before we while we kind of start sipping here on this Pinot Noir, this is the one that I showed you guys to start out with. Amazing Pinot Noir from Carneros. Football season started, so we got to talk about football. How many fantasy football leagues are you in, or have you been in?
Well, this year I reeled it back. I'm only in 2. In a pick 'em pool, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Totally different than normal, the fantasy league stuff. But last year I kind of gave into every single person that asked me to be a part of something, and so I was in 7 different leagues in this pick 'em pool, and it was almost a day job in itself. And so I'm out there in the vineyards at the winery doing this, and then all of a sudden it's Thursday night and I hadn't even looked at it yet, and then it's I get into Saturday and Sunday, and it's like, I haven't even made any adjustments yet. And so slowly but surely, I was almost in last place in every single one of my leagues, and they were like, does this guy even know what he's doing? And so this year, I cut them all off.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta focus on just a couple fun ones, and that's it. And but I still watch football.
Yeah, and besides making the wines, being part of the team, everything. Jim's kind of doing like the real work. He's the super guy that's like going, where's the fruit? And working on all the other angles. You also have a fireman from right here, down here in Shelbyville Fire Department, one of the great fire departments ever. And we support them so much. And you've been such a good part of that. Watching you in the parades and the in the big trucks and everything going down. It's fun.
It is, and it's, to me, one of the best things you can ever do is give back. And if you're the type of person that doesn't shy away when there's blood, like maybe it's something you should look at too. It's a it's a rare thing where you have to deal with something of that trauma, but ultimately it's about just being involved in the community for me. And being a part of Shell Vista is fun because it's a humongous district. Basically outside of Sonoma city limits, we cover that part of the eastern hills of Sonoma plus the south side into all the way to Highway 37 and out into the marshlands. So we see a lot of action, and it's just a great group of people. But ultimately for me too, the selfish side is it's replaced the locker room of football. Yeah. And so I have this unbelievable group of people that I get to be part of, and they challenge me, and it's young kids that are looking to get into firefighting as a career, or it's people that are just like myself that are community oriented, that just want to be involved. Yeah. And and it's I enjoy every moment I get to be a part of that station. And it's interesting during fall, or now it's not football season, it's harvest season. And fire season and all this other stuff that it keeps me just
busy.
Yeah, you just bounce around, and I a huge shout out to my wife for putting up with all my nonsense.
That's pretty awesome. I'm sure you saw a lot of blood on the football field. Yes. And some pretty bad breaks and tears and things like that. Let's talk about food and some of your favorite moments there. Like, what were some of the good things, where you actually had an amazing dinner with wine that you were part of? Is there one that stands out, or maybe a story or two?
Ultimately, we, as the offensive line, it's called the O-line dinner. Yeah. And it's, in a way, every week we would do this. Yeah. And we would go to amazing restaurants around Green Bay, or when we travel, we'd go out to a beautiful restaurant wherever we were going to play football. And and beyond the restaurant in itself, it was the food that was being put on the table, it was the people that were at the table, the quarterbacks, or the running backs, or the tight ends that would join us, or the receivers, or the defensive guys, but it was still always called the O-line dinner. And it was just this big group. I mean, sometimes we had almost 50 people. I mean, it was cool, and of course you got to call and let the restaurant know, right? But ultimately, we would try to find an awesome steakhouse that could or an Italian restaurant that just could bring out family style food, and we would, if we were having a night game the next day, we knew we could have a couple bottles of wine on the table, and again, this is a different era of football, right? This is when beer was in the locker, in the meeting rooms, and in the locker room. Nothing like it is today. And I was a part of the good era. Let's just say that. But ultimately, to me, it goes back to camaraderie again, right? It's as an offensive line, you have to play as one, and you have to know each other that well that when someone's having a bad game, you pick them up, or if you're having a bad game, they're going to pick you up, or maybe they know for a fact that the safety's moving that direction, that without making a call, the center's going to slide that way, so you're going to take one extra step as a guard this way, and help each other out. And that's where the cohesiveness comes together. And that makes being a part of the offensive line so special. And I had to learn that because I grew up playing tight end all the way through college. And all of a sudden, in my senior year, I get wrapped in offensive line. I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to catch touchdowns anymore, this or that. And all of a sudden, you become part of this bigger group. And it's so much fun as an offensive lineman.
Well, you're kind of like Kittle, like where the man can block. Yeah. I mean, he's a great receiver, but he's an amazing blocker. Right. And so that's kind of they just saw your talents there. That it was like, wow, this guy, he can bulk up a little bit, and what were you, 315 back in the old days? You're not 315 right now. No, but I'm telling you guys, he is not 315.
My peak weight for playing, I got up to 324.
324.
And that felt heavy. It felt fat.
Like you were actually living up to the name of the winery that you were going to found eventually.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. You went to you went to play with the Ravens, and I want to give a shout out to Chad and his wife Wendy, and Chad's sister Sage Steele too, because we're working on a little project together. We'll tell you about that one later, but and I'm really excited about that. And we're talking about Baltimore Ravens. What was it like playing there?
Totally different experience, right? You go from this historical place of Green Bay that it's the size of Santa Rosa. Feels like Santa Rosa. And it's a lot of dairy land, obviously, being in Wisconsin. You just don't have the hills that we do here, but it's extremely similar in a way. And then all of a sudden, I'm wrenched out to the East Coast. I get traded to Baltimore, and I'm trying to find the positives to keep my mindset right, because we're going right into season. And I get a phone call from them. It's like, hey, we're bringing you in because we need you. And so I get out there, and totally different experience. Playing in humidity. One of my first practices, it's blue sky and raining, and they're like, I'm like so confused what's going on. And then the coach is like, have you not seen 100% humidity before? I'm like, no, I'm from the West Coast. Like, we don't have humidity. We have fires because it's so dry. And just totally different experience. But just again, you get launched into this a team that's known for winning, for battling, big defense. In this locker room is what it's all about. The team is so cohesive together, and they do things together. And the offensive line group was just as tight as in Green Bay. And all of a sudden, you're transformed from green and gold into the black and purple, and you're like, oh my God, this is such a cool spot. And now we're living on the East Coast.
Did you know you're Edgar Allan Poe Holmes? Did you have?
Yeah, it's one of those things you got to look at, right? And there was also the cupcake wars that were going on back then.
But you had one of the great players of all times, Ray Lewis, with
totally.
you, and you got to be there with you. He's a mentor to everyone just because of his presence.
Yeah, he's just a big giant ball of energy, and somebody that could literally turn it on and off in such a cool way. And his presence and just demeanor on the field, and it was tenfold in who it traveled through of different players, and the intensity it brought on the field, and the swagger of being the Baltimore Raven. It was almost like this intimidation factor that you got to live with, and it was so cool to be a part of. And but again, it was just a bunch of blue collar guys just going to work, and that's what it came down to.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you're talking about some of my most respected teams, amazing players, and you got to go to San Diego. Actually, your wife is from kind of down in Southern California, which is good.
Her family is.
Her family is, and so you get to go down there every now and then, kind of go back at least near San Diego, if not to San Diego. So you knew this kind of weather pattern here, but going back there is like different.
Oh yeah, no, I mean at that point in my career too. I mean, for what we knew where we were at was, I was coming down to the final years. I was ready to do wine full time, and I was just trying to hang on and see maybe I'll pick up one more good contract that we can play through. And we ended up getting out to San Diego, which was great because I think it's the Sonoma of the South. Pretty much everybody from Sonoma that wants to get to Southern California ends up in San Diego.
Yeah, and you know what I will say, that their food culture has gone to a different world. I mean, it's probably since you've even been there. I mean, you've probably even seen it when you've gone back there since then. It was a flip-flop burger, nachos, taco eating society. Now it's like on the cutting edge of everything. I mean, it's so good. And there are some amazing restaurants. Some of my favorite restaurants in California are there. The Marine Room and all these kinds of what's the Ivy, the Juniper and Ivy. I mean, these things are like amazing, mind blower places, and you'd never have thought it in the past. But I get to judge the Toast of the Coast competition down there at the Del Mar Downs. And, oh my God, it's like one of the best experiences each year when I do that. It's so fun to be there and just to check out the culture and how it's emerged. It's so neat. But so what I'm getting to here, you guys, is that not only has he been all over the place, but your partners in this business, one came from Alaska, who played at Boise State. The other one came from Jacksonville,
Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida, and he played at
Louisville.
So I mean, we are spread out across the nation. This brand is available across the nation because of this partnership. You started out of the blue with people that you got drafted with, which is so crazy.
Yeah, you know, and it makes it fun. I mean, you know, obviously Daryn being from Alaska, Jason from Florida, me being from Sonoma, and then our colleges are come a little bit tighter together. Boise State, I went to Nevada, Jason to Louisville, and then we get drafted to Green Bay. It's almost like layers of an onion, right? And it's really cool, and you know, it allows us to have a network that pretty much goes around everywhere but the Northeast, which is fine. We're working well there.
Yeah.
And but ultimately, you know, for us in our expansion of Three Fat Guys and everything that we want to do over time, it's allowed us to just have a great platform to sell wine and to get in front of people and just share the love and of what Three Fat Guys is and what we're representing.
Absolutely. That Pinot we just tasted was so good. And I'll just say this. This is a young Pinot. This is a 2021. I mean, an amazing vintage, you guys. And believe me, the fruit in here is amazing. Another San Giacomo Vineyard designate. But, you know, what I loved about it is that you and I opened it a while ago, and it just changed completely. I mean, it's got this plum cherry stuff that's going all over it. It was high in acid, which is great. You want acid, because if not, it's basically grape juice, and it's not very good. And, you know, we might as well make it Concord grape juice in some cases. That really suck. But this is like a lovely young wine. It just needs to open up. And as I was suggesting in our conversation earlier, you should either open it when you start watching a football game or a movie. So you've got at least, you know, a movie is an hour and a half, but a football game could be 3 hours. So, you know, you watch how the progression goes. You know, is it ready for that sit-down meal right now? Maybe if you decanted it, but I think that really it'd be better to really enjoy something like this and to watch its maturity, how it matures right in front of you inside the glass. And that's a great Pinot.
Totally. Thank you very much.
You got
I appreciate it. Yeah, cheers. No, you know, to me, it's this is a vineyard we've been a part of, you know, for almost, you know, 2018 I think was the first time we got these grapes, and every single vintage for us has just been incredible. And it takes time to age, of course. And you know, one of our biggest issues, which we were talking about earlier, is just having inventory, because you know, we seem to just sell out of our wines. And you know, with 2020, we didn't pick a single grape due to all the smoke damage. You know, now we're left with our, you know, being completely sold out of Pinot, and now we're trying to get the 21, you know, Pinot ready, but it's going to take some months. It's going to take a little bit of time. This is our spring release for the wine club. They'll get this in 2023 for, you know, in March or April, and it'll be one of those that'll just be one you'll definitely want to bottle up.
Definitely. I mean, I love the way that the Chardonnay is tasting right now. It's ready to go. Even though it's brand new, but this Pinot is just like one that you just want to enjoy over, you know, as it opens up, you know, and then give yourself time with it. And that's what a great Pinot will do. And I say that about a lot of great wines. That's how you know it's a great wine. Is if I remember in high school, and you know, I shouldn't say that. When I was younger, okay, and like how, you know, Pinot or any wine that you'd taste would be going like this. You know, because they were the 1.5 liter bottles, and they weren't really what I had, but that was left. But the great wines go like this, and that's the difference. Is a bad wine goes like this, and it's going to tank, and it's going to start tasting like balsamic vinegar and things like this. And a great wine will go like this and make you so happy that you purchased it and really enjoyed it. You know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Speaking of enjoyment, here we go to Rutherford, and sure enough, right over the hill. You know, Sonoma Valley has great Cabernet, but we also respect Napa Valley so much. This is from Andy Beckstoffer's amazing George III Vineyard. One of our great friends. I mean, Andy Beckstoffer. I mean, the man is the real deal. He's like, remember we were just talking about the San Giacomos and how great they are here, and the Duttons up north. And I mean, you can't say anything except for the greatest things about Andy Beckstoffer. I mean, the man can farm, and I love it when he talks like this. He has a great accent when he really wants to get his points across. Virginia native, you know, and he is so good. Damn it. And I just love when he puts his passion into it, and you get the fruit, and you have to make it a passionate wine and preserve that. I think Jimmy did a great job in really capturing these flavors. Like I said before, this reminds me of the grape itself, and that's what Cabernet should remind you of. Is not the winemaker, but the grape itself. What is inside that bottle? And it's not about the barrels that you had to pay for and this and that. What is the grape? And this defines it.